Heaps of footy to discuss, and that's where we get to at a 7 o'clock, Kane Cornes, because we were texting back and forth yesterday. It was just one story after the other that dropped. I'm not even sure where to start, but contracts are right in your wheelhouse. They're your half volley outside.
Well, and you love the long-term deal. So you're one of the great defenders of the long-term contract.
A great defender.
You suggest that it is good business to just hand these deals out left, right and centre. So I
confetti.
I want you to do your best to defend this one from the Blues because Adam Cerra has got himself a 5-year deal, as we've discussed. So essentially 5.5 years or 5 more after this, 2030. He'll be into his 30s by the time it finishes. And I don't get it. And if anyone can shed some light on why Carlton needed to do this deal, I'd be really happy to listen. He suffered 5 hamstring injuries in 12 months, Adam Cerra. Now he's had calves before, and it's been a real ongoing issue for him. Just looking at his record, and just on his body, the Blues did move him to half back, I think in part to try and protect him from himself and his body, even though they desperately need more midfielders to help Patrick Cripps, who's carried the team on his shoulders for the best part of 7 seasons, and Sam Walsh is in a similar category. They need midfield depth, but they had to move him out of the midfield because they just couldn't get him sound. And they've signed him for five years after this. Now, injuries, particularly soft tissue injuries, don't get better as you age. Very rare that you have improvement with your soft tissue injuries as you get older and closer to your 30s. Look at someone like a Dion Prestia, who has had a long history of soft tissue injuries dating back to his junior years. That problem hasn't got better. It's only got worse to the point where you feel like every second or third game, Dion Prestia is going to ping a hammy. And just on performance, like has he earned this contract on performance? Now, you mentioned his 2023 season where he was leading the best and fairest, ended up finishing 4th after playing 22 games. That's his best season and his best result in the game after being drafted with pick 5 in 2017. He finished 3rd in Freo's best and fairest in 2020. This is interesting to me. And we can laugh at umpires and Brownlows and all of that, but it is somewhat of an indication of how damaging.
Don't go down.
No, it is. It's an indication of how you can change a game yourself and how damaging a player you are. He's had 16 career Brownlow votes, 2 in the last 2 seasons. Now, just in comparison, I thought, who's a player I can just pick out? Similar age. In fact, so I went to the same draft. Pick 45 in that same draft is James Worpel. He's had 39 Brownlow votes, 23 more than Cerra. He's never kicked more than 10 goals in a season. Like, the best midfielders now are those that are pushing forward, doing their damage in the front half.
Yeah, that's not his role. That's not his role, though. I just feel like I'm going to let you go. But
what's his role?
He's a defensive midfielder. If you speak to the people at the Blues,
who's he play on?
He's not a proactive midfielder.
Name me one scalp he's taken.
He's not a tagger, but he's not a proactive.
Where he's gone head to head with a gun opposition midfielder.
So Walsh, Cripps, the player you mentioned, Worpel, they're on the move midfielders, aren't they? This guy is not a go forward midfielder.
Well, Walsh isn't either, though. So who is? Walsh isn't a go forward midfielder. Cripps has developed in the last 3 seasons probably to be that, and has turned himself into a powerful, goal kicking, damaging midfielder. So what is his role then? What is it? Is he?
Well, his role was the season where he played and he had that great. He was first for inside 50s. He was second for tackles, second contested ball, second clearances. He would have won the BNF.
So if he's first for inside 50s, you've got to parlay that into scoreboard impact. If he's winning his ball in positions where he's first at the club for inside 50s, but he's not yet putting that into scoreboard impact, then I think that's definitely worth mentioning. He's played under 20 games in 4 out of his last 5 seasons. And it's just a bizarre contract.
Yeah, it is strange.
Bizarre.
But there's only... So is there any chance there's just some recency bias with this? I'll just ask. Because he's only had 1 injury-plagued year, and that was the year just gone. Shocker. 13 games. The most games he played in a row was 4. As we said, 5 in the 12 months of hamstrings. Shocking. He did them at training. He did them in games. He seemingly did them everywhere. But prior to that, he'd had the odd niggle and the odd injury, but he was generally pretty consistent. So he's just had the 1 injury-interrupted year. Now,
he's never played a full season. He's never gone, I've played every game in a season and I've been really sound. My performance has been consistent. Just one.
So it's gone
he hasn't done
21
that once.
games, 21 games, 20 games, 17, 18, 18, 22, and then the 13 last year. There was a word used yesterday in the commentary from Carlton, and the word was faith. And it was interesting, actually. So the list boss down there, Nick Austin said, there's faith shown in Adam Cerra, clearly, from the club. But then he said, well, and there's faith from Adam Cerra in us as well. So he said, Adam has had an impact in our side since his arrival at the football club and for him to commit to his future, blah, blah, blah. He said he's a much-loved, highly respected figure in the playing group, both for what he does on game day and what he does during the week. Is it exaggerate? One thing I don't think we're fully grasp is if you're a good clubman, how far does it carry you?
Definitely. So he's probably got an extra couple of years for being a good bloke. This is how nice we've become in this industry, that we're rewarding players on being a good bloke. Now, of course it counts, but you would expect that of everyone. Like, they made a significant investment to get him. Like, it's Jai Amos, really. Like, who would you take? That's the pick that they gave to get him. And Amos is 3 or 4 years younger, has kicked 70-odd goals in the last 2 years, and looks to be a future star key forward of the game. Like, asking me right now, who would I take? 100% you'd take Amos. Carlton have put a lot of faith in this guy.
Amos.
Well, 100% they would.
They're not drafting Amos.
100% they would.
What, with Kerno, Mackay, they're going to go another key forward?
Right now, if you're asking...
No chance.
The Western Bulldogs would do it. Like, you take the best player.
You go back to that draft.
So you would take right now... Well, they didn't know who was going at pick 6 when they traded pick 6.
But you're saying they traded that pick and it's Amos. But Carlton
right
wouldn't have
now,
picked Amos
you would take Amos
selection
over Cerra. If you could say, can we swap Cerra back to Fremantle and take Amos? 100% they would.
Off the text, if Cerra had a great season this year and then they sign him for 5, no issue. But to sign him for 5 after only 13 games with repeatable soft tissue injuries is ludicrous. The Cerra contract is a perfect example of why we need player wages published. If we knew the numbers, we could judge the deal in a more complete way. It may be a great deal, but we just
all
don't
of that.
know.
Yeah, I would expect he's taken a significant pay cut. Like, I would think that's the only way Carlton could have done this deal. Now, we will not know that. That text is right. These wages should have been public years and years ago. But this is the way you should have played it if you were Carlton. You just wait. Like, Cerra can't be traded right now. There's no mid-season trade period. He can't. And I think it's unlikely he's going to go to a third club. So you just wait until round 15, round 16, see how he gets through the year, see how the Blues season plays out. They might need a complete reset, Carlton, if it doesn't work this year, and go back to the draft. Then, okay, well, is Adam Cerra expendable? Can we trade him out? Can we get a late first-round pick for him? But you don't sign him for 5 years right now when he's had 5 hamstring injuries in the last 12 months and his performance isn't good. Like, the best he's ever had is a 4th and a best. Like, everyone finishes 4th and a best and fairest if you're any good. Like, that's once in the whole of his career. So, a bizarre one for me. Carlton fans, 1300 736 736, or footy fan, do your best to argue with me and defend that deal. But some of the stuff clubs are doing right now, from a business point of view, is just going to absolutely kill them. And we're seeing the greatest example of that at Fremantle right now. That was a disaster from the minute they signed the Sean Darcy deal, and it gets worse by the year.
Get to Darcy in a minute. The other part of it is, and it's we saw Adam Sard sign a 12-month extension yesterday. There's other balls in the air for clubs at times like this. So if they can get an Adam Cerra done, fine. If they can get a Sard done, fine. Because the big one down there is Tom De Koning. Now, they're going to need all their attention, all their fun. They need a clear landscape, I would have thought, to work all of that out. That's the signature that Carlton fans would sweat on the most. And I think that will be up there with the most hotly contested signature of the year. I think there will be clubs, and there are already, coming from everywhere to try to get Tom De Koning out of the Blues. So that they've got a real fight on their hands there, Carlton, with that. And I think if it meant that they could just tick
it's going to be difficult?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And I think if they had a chance to tick a couple of boxes here, stretch the money out over 5 years, might be a cut. We don't know. Might be a pay cut. Who knows? Then they do it, and then they worry about the really difficult one, which I think will be Tom De Koning as the year unfolds. 1300 736 736 is the number to call this morning. Darcy, you mentioned. Can't believe I've held you until 13 past 7 for this. But the news yesterday from the Fremantle Dockers was that Darcy's rehab program, in fact, was travelling really well. This is the Executive General Manager of Football, Joe Bridie, over there at the Dockers. They said they've been continually considering options to complement Darcy's program at the right time. I think he's resumed full training at Fremantle as recently as last week. Reintegration into football is why he's going to Doha, looking to, get right on the cutting edge of some new strategies and speak to some specialists over there. They've sent players there in the past. And Joe Bridie said, with things progressing well and looking to commence Sam's reintegration into football, we are now at a stage where we feel the time is right to continue to invest in practices to aid his progression. We're looking for any short-term gains to assist with Sean's return to play. We're also looking at the long-term stability of his knee.
Yeah, well, it's. I would think that's spin. Well, they can spin it any way that they want. But look, it's rare to see a player with under a month, 3 weeks to go before they play the Indigenous All-Stars on Feb 15, take off to Doha in the middle of the most important training period that you have of the year. Like, players if you can complete 80% of January, pretty much sets you up for a great year. To take off to Doha on Jan 21, when you're 3 weeks away from your first hit out, says to me, this is panic stations, this is alarm bells. Of course, he had arthroscopic surgery on the other knee about this time last year or throughout the preseason last year. Now he's had similar surgery in August. Now, if things are not tracking well from August to January, I'd be really concerned. The funniest part about this whole thing is Justin Longmuir, got his back up after Sean Darcy played one good game halfway through the year. He says, that's a message to those that have been critical of his contract and those that wanted to jump in first and have an opinion. So one good game and the coach bites back like that. This deal, from the moment it was signed, and I hate going back to things that you've said in the past, but this is exactly what I said when he signed the deal in this time last year. A 7-year contract for a 150-kilogram ruckman who is injury prone and can't play forward. When he's not in the ruck, what are you going to do with Sean Darcy? He's kicked 38 goals and he kicked 4 last year, so that would have been in 2023. You've spent $1.9 million of your salary cap on 2 ruckmen, not forwards. Ruckman. There's no way, and you and I did the hold me to it segment last year, and we'll do that again. We'll do that again. We'll do that again this year. But hold me to it. There's no way, hold me to it, Sean Darcy finishes his career as a Docker. No way. This is Brodie Grundy Mark II all over it. And I hope he can get himself right, but it's unlikely when you've got significant issues with both knees and you're of that size and you play a pretty brutal position where you're jumping constantly, banging into the opposition players, that you're going to last until the end of 2030. So I'm happy to be wrong on this one, but I don't think I am.
150 kegs, you said.
15.
I know we don't,
15.
Oh, 115. Yeah. I know we don't know player weights anymore, but I thought you said
he'd be at least 115.
Yeah, and you're right. You would know far more than me in this space. Well, far more well-versed in it. But, I mean, if you were going to do this trip, there's nothing wrong with that. But this time of the preparation would appear odd. So he's going on January 24 for a week. You would have thought this is a December 24 trip.
Yeah, or a few months after surgery, or, he had the surgery and missed the rest of the season in August. It might be straight up and down. It might just be that he's going over there for some training methods, for some management. I don't know. If he's already returned to full training, though. Well, they may say that, but when they say integrated back into full training, is he really? Like, is he in the match play? Is he?
So you think he's had a little setback?
Is he jumping centre bounce? Yeah, I don't think it. I think there's issues with the way that he's healing and maybe structurally the way that and I don't think he's done himself favours in the past, Sean, with just the way that he's prepared himself just by just observing him with the eye. I don't think he's been fully fit and fully taken his body seriously. And
there's a story in the West Australian. The big man looked to have trimmed down over the off season.
Yeah, you often get those stories. He needed to, and I'm glad that's the case if that has happened. But yeah, they're going to be really reliant on Luke Jackson. You'd be surprised if Sean Darcy's playing more than sort of 15 games next year.
Who'd be the best starting mixed midfielders for the Crows this year? And secondly, what would you do with Dan Curtin?
Good questions. I'm not sure Curtin is in their best 22 yet, but in time will be. I think he plays behind the ball. I think our cross halfback is the role best suited for him. Just haven't seen enough of him yet. Played a couple of games, of course, but looking forward to doing that. Great size, is a versatile player. In terms of the midfield at Adelaide, it's always a fascination. Always. So the starting point is Rankin, clearly. I would think.
Kingy's boy, Isaac Rankin. Speaking of hammies, if he has a clean... Oh, goodness me.
60-40, yeah. 60-40 midfield forward. I'd love to
70-30, 75-25.
Perhaps,
He's
yeah,
that good.
Perhaps that's the better mix. Sid Draper, I'm looking forward to having a look at, and hopefully he plays the 15 odd games. But they've got options. They've got options now. Neil Bullen is a great addition because of the defensive cover he gives you as a high half forward. So that gives you a bit more flexibility with perhaps playing some more attacking players like Rochelle and Rankin with flair through the midfield. So I'd be pretty confident with the way that Adelaide have structured their squad and the depth that they now have and the season that they're going to put together.
And given we need to point out that Josh Rochelle is having the best preseason in the history of the game, then I expect him to be playing a fair percentage of his game time in the midfield as well. So they're spoiled for choice.
It'll be interesting, like the players like Rory Laird and Matt Crouch, those that have been great servants. Like Rory Laird will be a Hall of Famer at Adelaide, but is it time to move past him in the midfield? Like he's an All-Australian halfback, so that's the way that is he bold enough to flip the magnets significantly through the midfield and get out the tried and true Matt Crouches, Rory Lairds through the midfield that have done a good job but haven't got them where they needed to be.
Brad Johnson on Sports Day last night regarding Jamara Ugle-Hagan and Jono saying he doubted Jamara will play or feature in the early rounds of the 2025 season, which is no small statement, to be honest. And the club yesterday, my communication with them, Kane, I didn't touch on this. They denied there was any concern over his immediate future, playing future. But, I mean, how could there not be? Like, if he's not out there training with his team, that has to be of some concern, doesn't it? I know it's a long year, but, gee, seems a fair way off playing. And I don't know how that could not be a concern.
Well, it would have to be a concern. So that I can't believe that they would have said that. Like, if you're looking at missing the first sort of month of the season, and that would be about the timeline, provided he gets back into full training pretty quickly as well. Sammy, like that doesn't sound a guarantee either. Like, is there a timeline on when they expect him to be back training daily and hitting every single commitment like every other player?
There's no guarantees on any of that, at least none that they're forthcoming with. Now, as I think I said at the start of the program today, is their next key date is the pre-season camp. I think it's in Noosa, up in Queensland, and they leave for that in the coming days. I mean, if he's not on the plane to Queensland for a dedicated pre-season camp, which is a key pillar of their preparation, I'd say that's more cause for alarm if he doesn't.
Who's his manager?
He's with the Cornes Sports stable, so that's his manager specifically is Robbie D'Orazio at Cornes Sports.
All right, we should put a call into Robbie. He's a big fan of the program and listens regularly, so we'll see if Robbie can shed a bit more light on whether he is showing a bit more level of concern than what the footy club is. Just from a footy point of view, just what a big year it is for the Bulldogs, like how important it is for them to start so strongly. After, the goal just has to be finish top four. It just has to be it. The squad is clearly good enough. The way that it has been put together is for the now, essentially. It's not, you're not looking on one eye on the future when you've got the best player in the competition, Marcus Bontempelli, and you're ready to go. And he's
I think they've done well at getting the kids in. They've got some exciting youth, but I think the clock's always ticking.
It's a good
when
balance.
You've got a superstar
the list,
like Marcus
the list is well balanced perfectly. You've got enough young players coming through and excitement with a core group of players that would be driving this footy club forward and so well led by the best player in the competition. Like, they've invested in this side, so that the first month of the season will be vital. And if Jamara's not there, then that's a huge blow for them. Structurally, how much does it hurt them? Particularly if Sam Darcy does what we think Sam Darcy can do. I've got concerns over Norton and his ability to impact games consistently, but those two together forward looks okay, and lob behind the ball. Who knows what you get out of Tim English as well. There's always some concerns over his durability and what he's going to provide week to week, but they're ready to go. But what it means for Luke Beveridge in the first month of the season, that's not ideal. He'd be, I wouldn't imagine he's that happy, would he, Luke?
With the Jamara situation?
Yeah.
No, I think that's a fair. Yeah. You'd imagine there's some friction between player and coach.
And I would think what Luke Beveridge does do well, he's not going to play someone that's not ready. Yeah. And we've seen that. It doesn't matter your resume or who you are or what draft pick you were. If he doesn't think you're ready, or if he doesn't think you're going to help the team, he just won't pick you.
We've seen that many times.
So if he's not ready, he's not going to pick him. He's not going to rush him back in. So, I mean, this could be longer than a month. I don't know, but it's not ideal.
that first month of the season, North Melbourne first up, Collingwood as part of their celebration, their birthday celebrations, if you like, at the MCG. Then into Carlton, and then away against Fremantle, and then Brisbane.
How many you give them? Without
That's
Jamara.
the opening 5 games. They beat North Melbourne. Carlton's 50-50.
Do they beat North Melbourne? Like these hungry young teams that have had a long
they should be
pre-season and are ready to go.